Every story has a beginning and an end. But what happens in between is where the magic really lies. Imagine this: no water changes, no filter, no chemicals. Simply a real natural ecosystem, just like in the wild. Will it work? You're about to find out. It all started with a regular 10-gallon aquarium. Wanting to add a unique touch, I decided to remove the unattractive black plastic rim. Moving the tank outside, I got to work. First, I tried cutting the silicone with a razor blade, but that didn't work. Then I used a saw to create a wedge. After 30 minutes of effort, the plastic finally came off. With persistence and a razor blade, I removed the last stubborn piece and cleaned off the excess silicone. With the rim gone, the tank was ready for a fresh start. This was the day I brought my vision to life. I boiled wood to release its tannins, which turned the water a literal tea color. While that boiled, I prepped the tank by adding sticky chair floor protectors under the glass to raise it slightly. For the foundation, I added damp soil for nutrients and capped it with sand to trap fish waste and prevent dangerous particles from entering the water. Next, I added river stones and wood for hiding spots. Supergluing stones together and covering them with moss. Then came the water. But it looked really bleak until I planted crypts, Amazon sword, and anubias. Still, I decided to wait till morning. By morning, the water was so dark with tannins that I had to drain the tank immediately. While some prefer black water tanks, I wanted a different look. I added more sand, creating a steep slope, and reworked the design with river stones and wood extending out of the water. A heater was added to maintain the right temperature. Today was all about adding land plants to the tank to help with water filtration and nutrient absorption. I carefully removed the plants from their pots, washed the dirt off the roots, and nestled them into the tank setup. This was a delicate process because any residual dirt could disturb the water balance. These plants are known for their rapid growth and ability to stabilize ecosystems by reducing detritus levels. Detritus is organic matter that plants and microorganisms can break down. Alongside the land plants, I added red root floaters, which are supposed to turn vibrant red under the right conditions. To support these plants, I added an extra light and set up a water pump to simulate natural flow. The tank was starting to feel alive, and I couldn't wait to see how everything would grow. What happened to the shrimp eggs? What's lurking in the sand? And how did this ecosystem face challenges it was never prepared for? Stick around to find out later in this video. The next step was to introduce water wisteria, a fast-growing stem plant that would help consume excess nutrients in the water. I carefully planted each stem, making sure they were secure in the substrate. Day 6, I wanted to enhance the aesthetic and ecological value of the tank, so I added a piece of soaked wood. This piece has been soaking long enough to ensure it wasn't releasing tannins. To make it look natural, I tied Christmas moss to the wood using dental floss. The moss would gradually grow, giving the wood a lush green appearance. Placing the wood in the tank brought an immediate sense of balance, as though it had always been part of the environment. Finally, it was time to add the first inhabitants. Coolie loaches. These little eel-like fish are excellent at scavenging, and they're endlessly entertaining to watch. An autosynclus catfish also hitched a ride. The loaches were quick to explore their new home, weaving through the stones and substrate, and then I spotted this guy, and they were officially named Captain Hook and his scallywags, because he only has one eye. With the ecosystem stabilizing, I introduced a group of pregnant ghost shrimp. Their clear bodies made it easy to see the eggs tucked into their abdomens, and they wasted no time scavenging for food in the tank. Ghost shrimp are fascinating creatures. You can even see their brain and stomach through their transparent exoskeletons. 2 days after adding them, the shrimp had already improved water clarity by eating floating particles stirred up by the loaches. The tank was finally thriving, but maintaining the delicate balance would take constant vigilance. While observing the tank on day 40, I spotted a small unwanted intruder, a worm. I removed it immediately to prevent potential issues. I also decided to take out the wood, as it was still slightly tinting the water, despite previous soaking efforts. Instead, I replaced it with more river stones, which helped anchor the plants and maintained the natural riverbed look I wanted. These adjustments showed me just how much attention to detail goes into creating a balanced ecosystem. During my routine inspection, I noticed that the ghost shrimp no longer had eggs. Could tiny shrimp already be roaming the tank? It was a thrilling thought. But to ensure everyone was well fed, I added bloodworms. She's taking it. She's taking the food, which the loaches quickly sniffed out. Meanwhile, the plants I had added earlier were flourishing, especially the crypts, which had grown larger and lusher than I had ever expected. It felt like the tank was becoming its own little world. The final pieces of this ecosystem are about to arrive, bold, fast, and ready to take their place in the delicate balance of the riverbed. But balance can be fleeting. Today, I added microorganisms called amphipods. These will break down detritus. Look how tiny they are! And these snails will also serve an important task. They will aerate the soil and bring down detritus or broken down matter into the substrate. On day 52, I decided to introduce a new element, a dried leaf. This will serve as food for microorganisms and hiding spots for fish. The detritus they broke down became nutrients for the plants, creating a perfect cycle. These small additions made a big impact on the health and balance of the tank. Day 60 was trim day. The water wisteria started growing out of the tank, so I trimmed and replanted the stems to create a denser and fuller look. But whenever I stuck my hands in, the floating plants would get in my way and my hand would sink them. But I will show you how I fix this later on in the video. After weeks of careful planning, I introduced the tank's top predators, guppies. I chose 2 males and 3 females, hoping for a balanced group dynamic. The guppies immediately explored their new environment. But I noticed an odd behavior. One male seemed to isolate himself while the others interacted normally. This foreshadowed a sad event I would discover later, reminding me of the fragility of even the smallest ecosystems. The next morning, I found the lone male guppy had passed away. The snails had already started breaking down his body, fulfilling their role in the ecosystem. It was bittersweet watching nature take its course. I buried him in the substrate, but one of the pirates dug him up shortly after. This moment taught me to let the ecosystem manage itself and adapt naturally. Although the guppies were thriving, the plants began to show signs of stress. Holes appeared in the leaves and some started to melt. To address this, I added floating plant rings to keep the floating plants in designated areas and improve light distribution. These rings also created beautiful spot-like effects, adding to the visual appeal of the tank. This simple adjustment brought new energy to the tank and allowed the plants to recover. Reflecting on the past 100 days, I'm honestly amazed at how this small 10-gallon tank has evolved into a thriving ecosystem. From the first frustrating attempts to remove the plastic trim to the intricate balance of fish, shrimp, and plants, every step has been a learning experience. The tank now stands as a miniature version of a natural riverbed, constantly adjusting and finding its balance. This journey has been both challenging and rewarding, showing me how resilient and beautiful nature can be when given the chance to flourish. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you like to see in the future?